right? And then you're turning the knob. It's really interesting. At that point, it gets turned into digital ones and zeros. It's kind of crazy.
Binary mentioned.
Into the computer, and then it's coming back out of the computer, back to analog, through the speakers, into your ear holes, and then, this is the bit that blows my mind, goes back into electricity, wiggles around your brain hole. That's wild. Hope this is enough signal for you.
Hell yeah.
Yeah?
Hell yeah.
Well, you probably got to do it in front. You got to do it in front of the camera.
I could clap probably.
That'd be a lot. You know what that is?
Yeah.
The nice spikes though.
There we go. Clean.
Lovely. So, I want to kick things off, just setting a little bit of context.
Yeah.
We're familiar with you because you've done a lot of work in the local music scene as a producer, as an artist, as a songwriter. The list goes on and on. And more recently, you have started doing some videography work as well.
Yeah.
So we've seen you kind of
Bits and pieces.
more at the front of the stage, a big VHS camcorder. But yeah, you're an active and familiar face. But tell us about yourself and your relationship with the local music scene.
Yeah, totally. I guess fundamentally, who Phoebe is I work as like an audio engineer, studio recording mainly, but I do bits and pieces in live too. And yeah, I've got a whole creative ambient side to me, songwriting as well. Like I do plenty of jazz and musicy bits. God, there's a lot that makes a person, you know.
Do you feel like a lot of your personality kind of shines through on the work that you're doing?
Yeah, totally. I mean, like, I don't know. I love some weird sounds. Me. I like weird sounds. I like harsh, noisy, very in your face stuff. Anything that has like a personality, I think. I really tend to think I'm drawn to. And be that like gear in the studio that has like a lot of history and a lot of, you know, nuance, or just like sounds in general. Although those two things do tend to go hand in hand, I think.
Yeah. As well as the music that you produce yourself on a very wide spectrum.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tranquil ambience to, again, really, really harsh, like, ear-crushing noise.
Yeah, no, for real. Yeah, anything, I don't know, I think that the stuff that I tend to be drawn to, when I like want to work with people, it's always like, I want to I want to hear some like trauma. I want to hear some like tragedy. I want to hear some sadness. Anything that's painful, you know. That always tends to make the most fun music, in my opinion.
You're not sticking to like a formula.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Every session's different, you know. You treat every artist different, because it's like, I don't know. It's like a little creative puzzle that I can see if I can get the best possible sound for each individual person. I think, you know.
Is it something that kind of emerged quite naturally, like growing up? You know, how did you sort of get into this kind of work?
Yeah, totally. I mean, I've always been in bands, I suppose, and I did very quickly become the person who knew more about tech than anyone else in the band. The person who had GarageBand on their computer. I kind of ended up going to doing some live stuff for theatre after school. After I finished school, I just kind of fell into it, honestly. And then it kind of came to a point where I was like, oh, I should learn how to do this rather than just kind of making it up. So I moved to Canada, went to like audio engineering school, figured out how to do this stuff properly, and then never really looked back from there, just kind of kept on doing it, you know?
Nice.
Yeah.
So kind of back in the UK, you set up your home studio here first, or did you find yourself at Brighton Electric?
Yeah, Brighton Electric, I mean, this room has been like a labor of love for my whole life. Like, it's kind of, you find collections and bits, and I don't know, like, I mean, that piano is like my childhood piano, for example. Sorry, to point to something off camera. That's really annoying.
We'll get it.
We'll get it. We'll get it. But like, yeah, I grew up with that, and yeah, it's one of those things that you just like slowly find piece by piece. You know, every month you get invoice paid, or I can get something nice and shiny and new now for the studio. But yeah, no, I definitely, I'd say worked first at Brighton Electric before I like had any clients in here to do some fun things.
So would you say, you know, your career, kind of more Brighton focused career, has been for quite a few years now?
I'd say since like 2021 was when I started actually seeing clients in the studio, I would say. And it kind of took off in 2022.
Would you say there's a particular notable achievement that you're proudest of, or an artist that you're...
Oh, not one.
not to pick any favourites, but
I think...
the most notable kind of point in your career so far?
God. I think a big one for me, a big turning point in my career, let's say that, was when I did the live recordings for the Lambrini Girls. They hired out, it was such a mental day because I really didn't know what I was signing up for at all. They hired out the family room at Under the Bridge Studios and decided to hold a gig in there whilst asking me to not only like live engineer but record it as well, so I could like mix it later, and it was like pressed to vinyl and stuff. That was a big deal for me, I think. And at the time, like that was like definitely the biggest artist I'd worked with at that time. And yeah, I don't know, it got me a little bit of notoriety in the scene, I think, you know.
Do you have any noise complaints from Under the Bridge? They're very used to their like jazz quartets.
Yeah, I don't know exactly that they like. There was a lot of people in that room. I don't think they really knew exactly what they were signing up for, but it was a great night. You know, it was a really fun time. It was hectic too. I'll send you that video.
Nice, yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Songe.
It's French, darling.
Yeah. Sorry. But you know, you've got like, captivating ambience. I'd like
Aw, thank you.
And, you know, you've released some demo tapes.
Yeah, album's coming soon.
Album
Actually, it will be recorded by the time this comes out, but it won't be out yet. Which is exciting. It'll be out very soon though.
Yeah, you kind of combine. Just saw your theremin. You know, you had a theremin tuition earlier today.
Yeah.
You've got all these vocal harmonies and these like experimental elements. And obviously, I feel like this style of music isn't something that you kind of just fall into. Like, how was that kind of the pathway?
It's really interesting. It's a bit of a story, so strap in, I guess. When I was living in Canada, it was kind of over the pandemic, and I got really into field recording. Like there was this big forest in like behind my house that I could just go and walk into. So I started recording the birds and the sound of the lake, and it's all very calming and peaceful and stuff. And I guess I started with ambient music by like layering those field recordings and over like very textural pads. Like that is in essence what my sound kind of started as, and I think it's like at its roots sort of what it is. Always been a pianist. I mean, I played piano since I was like tiny, and yeah, I kind of started experimenting with those like a pad and a field recording, as well as like layers of piano running through effects pedals and stuff like that. I think when I started streaming, it was a great way of experimenting with those, like with what pedals work, with what like sounds work with the piano, and kind of being able to bounce off people too. I mean I did a few solo streams before I got anyone else on because it was a bit embarrassing, but exactly. But But I remember the first time I like played with Elle, my bandmate in Songe, it really felt like something clicked. I was like, oh, that's where the sound is. You know, that's what I wanted to do. It was a crazy night the first time we played together. But
is it a lot of trial and error in regards to like the pedals that you're using and the kind of sounds that you're trying to create? Do they kind of form quite naturally, or is that something that you feel like takes a little bit of digging to find?
yeah, I suppose you kind of like you try something out, and if it works, it stays on the board. Is the way I think about it. You know, like I actually get my sound through I would consider not that many pedals. You know, like it's not that stacked, because I'm pretty militant on like if it doesn't sound right, it needs to go. You know, I'm just not going to use it. And it's taking me a little while to figure out, what I like and how I like the setup. I mean, this hologram is a big part of my sound. When I got that really changed things, I think, for the better, I suppose. It allowed me to go from just kind of traditional to piano to like, big textures and thick sounds. Well, I mean, I don't know.
It's the Phoebe pedal.
It's a Phoebe pedal. Yeah.
Amazing. So you've collaborated with a lot of local creatives.
Definitely, yeah.
That's, I feel like, something that you're going to continue to expand on through to 2025.
Absolutely. I think there isn't a massive ambient scene in Brighton, you know, but the people that do it, I love being able to get people here into the room, see and like bounce ideas off of each other, and it's really nice to put that out there for an audience, even if it is just like a stream, you know. And even like, I mean, I've had like Annie come. Annie's a great example of a person. She didn't really know what she was gonna do when she came here. You know, it was just like hey, come over and see what happens. And it was a really interesting blend because I don't think she's really experimented with that side of music or that side of ambient music specifically before. And it was really nice to kind of have her be like, oh, wow, this is really fun. This is like, exactly. Yeah. And I'd love to do that more. It's get like people who are incredibly talented musicians, but don't know so much about, I don't know, experimental music, come in and see what the deal is.
Artists that you'd like to get in?
Okay, so we do have plans to get a featured artist on the album, which is an artist called Jessica Roch, an ambient artist who is based up in London. I think she's absolutely amazing. She does a lot of like acoustic instruments and like with tape loops, and it's quite hard to describe other than that, but it's fantastic. Definitely give it a listen. I'd love to have her come down and do a stream with me. I'm really struggling to think of someone out there like who isn't really in the scene that I'd like to see her. I think everyone should kind of come. You know, everyone should like have a go at it. You know, actually, I'd love to have a drummer. I think a drummer would be really interesting to see what they could bring to the table, because so much of my stuff kind of exists as like an A-tempo sort of thing, like a really fluctuation in tempo, and I think a drummer might have like a hard time adapting to that, but I think it'd be really interesting to see what they'd bring.
Maybe more of a rigid rhythm into things, or maybe to strip them down to a more ambient sound.
Yeah, maybe. I know Misha Phillips of Smoking Room. Obviously she does loads of ambient stuff, but I've not really heard her do drumming for ambience. Maybe Misha would be a perfect person to get in and see what.
Her latest release as well. It seems
stunning.
Gel
I love Misha, absolutely, yeah. And I'd love to do some stuff with her, yeah, absolutely.
And that's the invitation being thrown.
Yeah, yeah.
And you know, like we were just talking as soon as I arrived that we've kind of spent a little bit of time in grassroots venues, some really lovely people that we've met
Oh,
on
yeah.
the road, and kind of just discovering new artists as well.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any kind of notable grassroots venues, artists that you'd like to highlight, I suppose?
Totally. I mean, for ambient music and for experimental music, I think that loads of people in Brighton don't know about the Rose Hill Tavern. Absolutely beautiful venue. They always have very strange and weird people playing and performing, and I think that it's cool to have a venue that you can go and be weird at, and like everyone's on the same page. Everyone's like there for the experimentation, you know. Artists, goodness, there's so many people I want to shout out. Eva Lunny, love Eva Lunny. She's taken off a little bit, but I think she's fantastic. Cam Kerr, another person who I've had on stream. When people come on stream, we tend to get along really well and become a bit of friends. But like, yeah, Cam Kerr's solo stuff is fantastic. And yeah, very, very underrated artist in the scene, I think. Yeah.
Say on the note of like the Rose Hill Tavern and venues being kind of open to this like very unconventional style of music,
Mm-hmm.
do you feel like that's something that needs to be pushed more locally in terms of just not having such a rigid kind of booking criteria, I suppose?
For sure. I think Brighton has developed sort of a sound through, like people, people who put on shows definitely have criteria, right? Be that promoters, be that like people like Meg at Green Door, for example. She definitely has a sound that she likes and wants to cultivate in that venue. And I think that's valid and that's cool. But it will kind of incentivize people to sound like,
Morph their sound.
yeah, exactly, morph their sound for that, or like fit in with the scene that exists surrounding that. And I don't know, I think there's kind of an inherent musicianship of being like, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do something different. Yeah. And I think the Rose Hall as a space definitely fosters that. Although I guess you could argue that in of itself is, a scene and like molding weirdness as a as a genre. Maybe we should all just put on our own gigs in the field, in the forests, and
Speaking of filming in the forest, I
Yeah.
saw Lynn's fundraiser.
Oh, yeah.
And
that was amazing. Yeah.
I just think, just bringing music into, again, really unusual spaces.
Oh my goodness, absolutely.
It fuels creativity.
Yeah, if you haven't been up to Future Roots Stamina, it's beautiful yurt up there, and yeah, it was such a wonderful little folk gig that I saw with Lynn Gasper and Erin Munn and Freddie. I don't remember his name. Freddie J. Watts. That's it. Nailed it. Thank you. And Freddie Watts.
But it almost brings you straight back to being in Canada, kind of being in the forest and getting all of those samples of like bird songs.
Yeah, it was a similar mood. I was quite isolated when I was in Canada. I was like living by myself, and not by myself, but a lot of my roommates went home to their family, so I was kind of isolated from everyone, living in a suburb as well. So it was very like in the middle of nowhere sort of feeling. But yeah, I think Stamina was a good middle ground, I suppose, to that.
Definitely. So yeah, I think you've continued to expand your involvement in the scene, as I mentioned, and you're delving more into the audiovisual world
Yeah,
as well. And
definitely.
I think we've just seen a very like brief insight into what you're working on at the moment?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that will be out by now.
Chuck a few clips in
Yeah,
there as
yeah.
well, but just you're trying to create or foster more of a journey, I suppose, of the senses. You've got the visual element, you've got the audio element.
I think this the genre that Sonj exists in, that ambient bath time harsh noise, you know. I think a visual element really does complement it more than a lot of music. Not that it can't exist without it, but like, I don't know. I think those two things do really go hand in hand, and it's why you often see like visuals or like VJs at ambient shows, projecting on your face, and I don't know, making the whole environment more of a multimedia sensation. You know what I mean?
Nice. And I think that kind of wraps things up.
Oh,
really.
perfect.
So it'd be nice to sort of hear about your 2025 availabilities and maybe what you'd like to do next year, and maybe open up kind of an invitation to...
Yeah, absolutely. 2025, I'm free for studio bookings and stuff like that from about February onwards. My January is already kind of booking up. Love to do like more longer form stuff, so like albums and EPs. Always, I think that's a bit more of a creative cohesion that I like to do rather than just singles, but I know a lot of other producers don't do that. Looking forward to releasing the Sonj album. That will be coming out soon. I don't have a date, but it will be coming out soon. I'm excited to see what the new year's going to bring, honestly. Because I'm up for anything, and I'm excited to help out my friends.
So you're depping on bass?
Oh yeah, exactly. Depping on bass in the hardcore scene. Putting on Die 2. I'm sure Die 1 went down so well.
Singing some Fame FM.
Who knows? Who knows what the future may bring, you know?
Amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, thank you. With some signal coming through my mouth hole.
Better, there we go.
There we go. Oh my god, there we go.